I spent 3 grueling weeks building the Ecto one from the Ghostbusters. No, it's not that one, I swear. It's this. No, it's not a 1959 Cadillac Miller Meteor like you're supposed to use. I think it's a 59, is it? I don't know. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But I did use a 2007 Mazda 3 hatchback that I picked up for about $1,500. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you which color white I used, how much it was, how I did the red stripe down the side, where I got the sticker from, how much that was, how I put the roof rack together, and where I got this cool little light bar from. Also, don't look down here. That's nothing. Don't worry about it. I prepped for the paint, like taking off the bumper, headlights, taillights, side molding, then sanded it down and taped it up to get ready to paint. The paint that I used was Eastwood's GM Fleet White, since the original was a Cadillac after all. After I sprayed the white, I retaped the lines so that I only painted the red of the fins. Now that we're done painting the car and got it looking real nice, we're gonna work on the centerpiece, which is the roof rack. And I got this one off of Amazon for about $60, and I wouldn't suggest getting this one. I would suggest getting the taller one at 6 inches, but it was like double the price, so we're doing this one. And as for all the little stuff like the radome, the storage tank ends, the Freon tank ends, I actually 3D printed them, which you can find on my Etsy store, link down below. And we're gonna set the storage tank ends and the Freon tank ends onto a 4-inch plastic PVC pipe. The radome, on the other hand, well, we can do pretty much as is and just put a little red stripe on it. One of the heat sinks, on the other hand, did not turn out too well, as you can tell, but my 3D printer is currently tied up, so I can't print another one for at least another 2 days. So we're stuck with this one. But if you do order it, I promise it will look a lot better than this. As I'm filming this, I'm realizing I need to go to Lowe's to pick up a strap end for the storage tank, and also another PVC, because I do not have one long enough to fit on the roof rack. And I forgot that Lowe's is closed, and apparently Home Depot is open, so we're gonna go run to Home Depot, which is only 8 minutes away, so we're gonna see if they're open. Okay, Home Depot for the win on this one. I got the pipe that I had to cut down myself. That was a fun experience. But now we're heading back, and hopefully we can get this thing going. For a 10-inch pipe at 4 inches of Schedule 40, this cost about $37 from Home Depot. Next, we gotta mark off the size of the storage tank. And we're gonna go from about here to here. Now, typically, I'd be a stickler for these lines not being straight. However, we put this on, we're gonna epoxy it in, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill in all the little gaps on the inside. When it comes to the Freon and the storage tanks, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take some epoxy, some of that stuff that you put together, I'll put a picture on the screen right here. You're gonna take that and you're gonna squish it, mix it in to the insides, and then you're gonna stick it in, and then let it sit for a while, and then you're gonna start to fill in these little cracks with this glazing putty, that one. So I started painting the radome, and while that was drying, I cut out and painted the top part of the stand. Then, after they dried, I screwed them both together. We're gonna cut down these boards to fit into a box into here so we can mount everything together. And after we build the box, we're gonna spray it white. Then I used some green apple to spray paint the storage tank. Once I put the box into the rack, I used self-tapping screws and L brackets to hold it down. I forgot to film it, but I screwed this black stand into the wood frame. Now we can take all the tape off. Yay! This is the part that I've been dreading the most. Getting the storage tanks and the Freon tanks to stick on the side. Right now, all I'm gonna use is this Velcro tape, screwing it on this side, and then wrapping it around, and then screwing it in again with like 4 screws. All right, one side is on and it is solid. This is where I start to build the base and the entire assembly for the sniffer tube. And I epoxy the 2-inch PVC pipe into the sniffer tube box that I 3D printed. So, because I didn't want to buy the cap for this, I printed one out. It's a little bit shorter than the ones that you see on the typical ones, but it's also a shorter roof rack. Since that is in, we're going to take this and epoxy this to the rest of the bottom down here. This hole needs to be deeper. Since this needs to be deeper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a couple screws in here and secure it that way rather than using epoxy, just to make sure it stays. It doesn't look great, but honestly, no one's really gonna notice that much unless you've watched this video. But I will end up putting a new one and replacing this one because I'm gonna redesign it because I'm not sure how much I like it. But we can now stick this tube in here. I'm gonna point it this way. Now it's in securely into its designated spot. So unfortunately, I'm not gonna get much more on this roof rack. I really just kind of wanted to capture the essence of what it was. The sniffer tube, the side tanks, the radome, the heat sink. Unfortunately, I couldn't figure out how to do one of those satellite dishes, so I didn't put that in. However, I can print out the little arrow for it, but I just got to figure out how to do, that round piece. Future builds are the past builds that I've done, like the Pizza Planet truck, where this thing came from. Go check that video out. And now we're gonna do the most important part, which is putting this sticker on the side so everybody knows that we're here to bust ghosts. It's windy. Vinyl has never been my forte, so let's see how I did. Well, I got a couple bubbles in here, and honestly, it's just gonna make it look like it's wet for a while. But for the most part, it looks pretty good. It looks a little janky, but you know what? I'm very proud of the work I did, and I got a lot of it done, and I did it on my own, and I think it looks pretty good for being like a really low budget kind of thing. So, if you got like $4,000 to spare, you can make one yourself. If you know how to paint cars, you can do that yourself. This whole paint job cost me like $350 for the paint, and then just a couple days for my labor.